we're up and rolling. How are we doing, guys?
Absolutely.
That record button took a lot longer. Felt like heart beating, picking up.
Hey, well, Sash, I love your hat.
As always.
We'll have some cordial ones soon. And Jochem, it's great to see you.
Absolutely. It's been a while that we've done one of these talks, but
yeah,
we finally had time to do it.
Have to apologize a bit, don't we? But we've been run ragged actually with so much going on. And why don't we just dive straight into what that has been then, with a bit of a rundown of what Orchard has been doing.
Yeah, let's go straight into it. I mean, just going off what you've talked about there, Chris, the past month and a half to 2 months has been pretty heavy on everyone. So just to let you know, we are still rocking and rolling on this, and Orchard and Cordial both have been busy, not to mention the CRC. So yeah, we can just quickly update you now and then go into some other bits and bobs, but go for it, Chris.
So just a quick update on where we are with Orchard, and we'll take the two entities as separate. Orchard, we've been around for a long time, and we are taking that business forward to try and be the kind of red hat to Cordial world as the Linux of the future. We've applied for funding from the UK Innovate Smart Grant for about £400,000, about $500,000. And we find out whether we get that on the 30th of July. So we will have some champagne on standby in case we do. And we'll probably open it if we don't get it. But we scored 82% last time. The bar was set at 80%, and then they raised it. And so we think we'll come in above that, and I really do hope so. But we're not stopping there. We're going to apply for funding from the Joseph Rowntree Charitable Trust as well, who have a big project going on. We're also involved with the Royal Society for Arts and Manufacturers and Innovators in the UK in something called the Good Work Guild, which is linking us into a community that's talking about the future of work and how we can affect that. We're in some deep conversations at the moment with partners and talking about data trusts and smart cities. I'll mention one of the partners now, which is Crystallizer and the South London Partnership. And they are part of our bid for money from the UK Innovate, because what we want to do with them is work to help with community wealth building in the 5 boroughs of South London, and that's 1.1 million people. And we think we can bring our technologies to that to help people collaborate and communicate better, so that we can have more citizen participation in decision making. And of course, we're going to try and use Elastos technologies to do that. Before we go on to the second partnership and the idea of a stablecoin, I'll just mention that Sasha, and forgive me for mentioning this in public, Sash, but Sasha has done the most amazing job of updating our Orchard website. So go and have a look, www.elastosorchard.eu. I have to say, Sash, it's really good, and it's very impressive that you've been able to learn how to do that, and actually what it looks like now is a great site. So thank you very much on our behalf, and I hope everyone would agree. So if you haven't seen it, please go and have a look at it. Okay, so I will hand over there to allow you to talk about stable coins, Jochem.
All right. Well, I think that this is a topic that we all love, right? So the whole community feels that we need a stablecoin in some shape or form, because there's a huge amount of benefit to having a stablecoin, and what it would look like and how it could be built. It's still very tentative. It's still a little bit in the dark. It's not very easy, but we're in the very early stages of really exploring what the possibilities are on potentially on the Elastos Smart Chain. No promises, obviously, so need to keep it a little bit vague on purpose. But having stablecoin or having stable coins in your ecosystem would make it, for example, a lot easier to build fiat gateways, which would be a huge benefit. Would really power not just DeFi products, because fairly large number of DeFi products out there, but also businesses that want to build on Elastos and want to do something. And it could even be beneficial to the Cyber Republic Council itself. So I find it a really interesting topic. And we're in the very early stages of talking with different kind of partners to see what can be done. And if the technology, if the Elastos technology is ready for this as well. Not too many promises here, but we've been working on it, and we've been talking with different partners, potential partners.
Yeah, it's looking good. Some of the people we've been speaking with, and it's looking promising on that aspect, are hoping to build a bridge over to our Ethereum sidechain. And the importance of a stablecoin, it's paramount. And actually, especially today, having a trustworthy stablecoin is even more so. We've had some great conversations recently on Tether, and just how there's concerns behind it of who's printing Tether, and is it backed one-on-one, and is it regulated enough to really promise what it promises to be. And then the importance of finding something which is in fact backed and it's regulated, and we think we found it, and they're looking like they want to bridge across. And what that will mean is, on one side, down the road, you'd be able to use your credit card to buy their stablecoin, and then you could take that straight to the Ethereum sidechain and use our applications. Or on the flip side, we could build liquidity up on our sidechain alone, and then once we roll out new products, people have immediate access to something in which they can kind of go back to if they don't want to be in such a volatile asset. So really, really positive there, and looking forward. Given that this all goes ahead as we're hoping to bring something that represents Europe and something which Orchard can deliver, because they're European based and it's backed by European assets and it's all regulated. So that would be a really fantastic goal to achieve.
So fully regulated and compliant stable coins that allowed you to move in and out of European fiat would be superb, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But just a side note, these are very long-term processes, right? It's not, these kind of things are not done in a month or two. It takes a lot more time just to build the bridge, but also to make these kind of things useful. So we're not making any promises. We're working on it behind the scenes. We're all volunteers. We do it because we want to. We do it because we love this. But at the same time, please realize these are long-term projects. In the terms of maybe a year or between 1 or 2 years, give or take. If we're lucky earlier, but that's a bit of the time frame that I would be looking at.
Yeah, I think you're right to mention the time frame, actually, Jochem. And there was a really good thread posted today, which we'll put a link into in the notes to this. That came out today, looking at the internet and the time frame that it's taken to build that, and actually what we're expecting out of blockchain and Web3, and the fact that really we're only kind of 3.5 to 5 years into a smart web. When you think about how long it took to build the internet, everyone suddenly thinks that it suddenly went, and it's only been around since 2010. Well, that's simply not true. Actually, adoption has been a very steady curve since the late 80s. And then before that, it was built, they started building the internet around the 60s. So, things are going to take less time than they did, but it's more complicated now. And so I think having a longer time frame is quite useful, actually, just to remain relaxed about things.
Yeah, it's the idea of day to day. If you just look at it, you get engulfed. But if you take a step back, the big picture is looking very promising. And what the whole space and the Web3 tech stacks are offering is, a game changer and something that will affect everyone around the whole world as digitization just really encroaches into everybody's lives and continues to. I had a read of that this morning, Chris, and it is brilliant because, the internet that we know today is accumulation of around 70 to 80 years of work. But given that we are now here today, the technology and how fast it's as far as advancing, it won't take us the same amount of time, but 4 or 5 years is nothing in relation. And it was comparing us to being in the mid 90s to what the internet was and where we are today. And actually in a couple 5 years or so, we'll be in mid 2020s and onwards. So it's fast, and I think it will engulf on us very fast. But it's extremely exciting.
And it feels pretty good as well, right? Because this is also the reason why we're all pretty relaxed. I mean, we're very early stages. Everyone is developing. The technology is under development, and you can see the different developments happening. And things will come our way. I mean, I don't worry too much about the short-term movements or adoption because it's a long-term play anyway. So let's realize that, and then we'll play the long-term game.
And in that vein, I think, it is useful just to point out and remind ourselves what an undervalued asset ELA is, bearing in mind that all of the parts that Ron and the teams have promised are coming together, actually. And I think August, September this year is going to be a really important one for Elastos. And we'll start to see, Elastos Essentials being able to affect how you control your data and where you put it and how you access it. Tomb Tech and Donny's team are doing great work. Benjamin's team is doing great work. They're all coming together. And although it's not, it didn't take 3 years, I think we just have to just be a little bit kind to ourselves as a community and go, but what we have done is believed in something that is has the potential certainly to change the world. And if you were going to bet on the structure of a new web, then definitely owning some ELA, in my opinion anyway, for me is worth it.
Yeah, it's
this is not financial advice, etc., but I think, as you look at
the advice.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, I think it's a good bet actually, and it's so undervalued, it's ridiculous. Anyway,
cool. Do you want to talk about Cordial?
Well, yeah, let's do that. I mean, the Cordial World Foundation is now a formal entity. We're based in Amsterdam. It's a non-for-profit, and it's going to work alongside Orchard. The Cordial World Foundation is going to be the owner of the open source Cordial network that we want to build. And the first part of that is going to be looking at data trusts. So that's the area that we're doing a lot of work in at the moment. And George, as our CTO, is doing some fantastic work with, again, some amazing partners. And we are preparing ourselves for the benefit of funding. So we've got several irons in the fire at the moment. And if any of them or all of them choose us as recipients of that funding, then we want to be in a position where we can go. So we want developers in place, and we want our processes and procedures and our governance and everything else in place. So we're working on all of those things now, everything from articles of association and making sure that our governance of our finances is all in place and in order, to actually getting the developers themselves. So we've got 3 developers and a team that will be able to access as well. And we're working with Donny and with Ben to think about our ideas and make sure that they interact and interconnect, because we don't want to build this as an isolated entity. We want it to use as much of the Elastos technology suite as we can, and we want it to be able to be interoperable with those other elements. So yeah, it's again, it's really exciting. Do you want to add anything, guys?
Yeah, maybe very quickly, because I personally really like this route, because the obvious question would be, well, why don't you just do a token sale, raise a whole bunch of money now, and then use that? And that's a fair point, because we are in the bull market. At the same time, it's much more, it feels a lot better, and it's much more ethical as well, to first get your strategy together, to get your connections together, to get your own finances together, and only after that, maybe do a token sale or do a full-on fair launch, or whatever shape or form that will take. But I'm much more confident with this route, because this is the way it should be. It should be clean. It should be totally transparent, and we should get our own stuff in place before we start building. So I really like this approach.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, Sash, go on.
Yeah, just our original plan has shifted over time, and we were planning a token sale to be a lot earlier, and in hindsight we probably dodged a bullet there, because actually we have to think of what's in the best interest of everyone who invests in us. And how can we ensure that we bring utility to the coin as soon as possible, and otherwise through governance or using the utility on the platform. And actually, given we'd released that without a platform running at that point, and then in light of how the markets reacted to it, just would have probably not been a very good shout. So strategically stepping that back, moving into the grant aspect, looking at investments, and we've got some really good people lined up that we want to kind of work with. I think, yeah, it's pretty good. And in the meanwhile, we've been engaging. Guys, check out, George did a recent post for Fortune called How Selling Our Personal Data Can Fund Universal Basic Income. And it's incredible. And it talks about the importance of data trusts and using AI for good. And this is exactly what we're looking to build here. So if you want to have the best insight of where we're at today with Cordial World, go check out that article. I'll leave it in the link in the description below, but really worth checking out.
Yeah, that's great. And when we do, we are going to launch a token. And when we do go for that, we, as Jochem has said, we want to be as clean and open and transparent as possible. And we want to do it, as Sash has said, for the benefit of the whole community and everybody. And so we've looked at this idea of a fair token launch. But one of the things that we're working on at the moment, which is kind of going on in the background, is how do we ensure that we give and we allocate tokens appropriately, and what can people do in the community to just, I don't know, share ideas and to help promote us, and how would we reward that sort of behavior? All of those ideas that we're kicking around at the moment. Haven't gone firm on any of them, but when we think about it, we're always thinking about user experience and trying to make sure that all the knots are tied and it's a good experience for everyone. And we want people to own Dial as the Cordial token because of the utility that it's going to bring. And we don't want the pumpers and dumpers getting involved in it. So, we're not interested in going to pay for influencers or anything like that. It'll be grassroots, homegrown, serving our community and giving you the utility first, and then trying to get it bought by other people as they can see its usefulness and why they should have it.
Brilliant.
So I guess we want to talk a little bit about the Elastos price dump. We've talked a little bit about price, and we know that Bitcoin has been in the doldrums. Everything is down. There are still people talking about a bear market. We know that we're close to the end of the 60-day cycle. There's a lot of people that are thinking actually it's going to go down a bit more and then flatline. But alongside all of those other coins that seem to have dumped, as I look at my rather small and meager portfolio and compare it to how it used to look, which is basically double the size, it doesn't matter how much you've got. It's just the fact that it's smaller than it looked before, because I'm just a holder really. But anyway, Elastos is looking like at 234 or something today, I think. And there was some real shenanigans going on in the background. So I think, Sash, you were tracking that hard, weren't you, the other day? Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, oh God, yeah, it's all been kicking off. So obviously price has been dumping. Everyone's been screaming and shouting about how bad everything's been, and understandably, because, no one expected this, and nothing like this has really happened in a bull market previous as well. We broke the 21 MA moving average, so it kind of signaled that we could be moving into a bigger downtrend. That's followed. There's been all kinds of FUD and conversation, be it from China to just the fact that everything Elon Musk, and just it's all been happening, and it's been a massive build up. And you have to remember as well that if you look at the stock market, you have to have a level of maturity as a company to enter in. And once you're in, generally speaking, big movements have big effects because these companies are all quite mature and regulated. Now, what crypto world is just a wild, wild west. So you really can't there's no flaw to it, as far as you don't have to be at a level of maturity. You can just fork some code and then you can deploy it on a smart contract and you're in. And it could be a Doge coin, it could be a meme coin, it could be a safe moon. It doesn't matter. And as we had the previous big run up and cycle, what happened was more and more people start putting in all of these new tokens. And what you have is way too much supply outstripping the amount of demand that's here. And then even more so when it turns and you suddenly get some real shocking news like China's, banning cryptos or something which has caused a kind of effect, suddenly all this supply that's been created has even less demand, and it all just drops. And this is what's happened. It's been pretty shocking. But there's also opportunists out there that can see that, okay, there's a mean average. And I like to think no matter what the token is, everything eventually returns to the mean average. So in Elastos's terms, I think we're actually so far below the mean average of what the valuation is based on the technology and the fundamentals. But then you look at, say, something else and another coin, you say, well, that's so over the mean average based on the amount of pump, the amount of just influencers and people who have been paid to really pump the price up. And nonetheless, we're all at Bitcoin's mercy. So Bitcoin drops, we all drop, and it sucks. It is the way it is. But that's what's happened, and opportunists have swooped in. So for the first time, we've had our first ever real big shorter, someone who tried to short ELA. It's never happened before, but around a week ago, some of our moderators started noticing on our side that progressively more and more ELA was being borrowed on Filder. So it started off with 100,000 ELA, then it moved up, and by the end of the week it had gone to 1 million ELA. Now, given that the price at that point was roughly around 240, 250 as an average, we're talking about $2.5 million worth that's been put down as collateral, not even collateral, sorry, that's been put down in order to take it out. And I believe Filder has a 90% loan rate, so they didn't have to have too much over that to be able to borrow the full $1 million. So we're looking like, I don't know, just under 3 million was actually put as collateral down on the Filder platform. 1 million was borrowed over that time. And then what we believe was going on is it was getting bridged to Elastos Ethereum sidechain, then sent to Huobi, and then started to be like trickle sold onto the marketplace. And the idea was in doing so, they could push the price down. And we don't believe it was malicious, because being malicious would mean that they want to destroy the project. And when you look at the fundamentals from the foundation having as much Bitcoin as they do to the 4 years of development and everything there, also it's a decentralized system. So it's actually very hard to, it's more resilient than a central kind of company to actually destroy. But that's what the stock market would do. You'd try and short sell to destroy and make a load of money on the way down. And in this case, they've borrowed 1 million ELA, which we believe is to then drop the price in Huobi, create a shock reaction to drop it further than what they created themselves, and then buy back that ELA with more on top, pay back the initial million, which they bought back at a much lower price, and then keep another initial amount, which they bought for themselves. And we reckon they were trying to accumulate 1 million for themselves, ELA. But regardless of what they were doing, it was an attack on ELA. It was an attack on our community. We weren't going to let that stand. It was not good. It's not fair. We've been through enough. And in this scenario, in the early hours of, I'm not sure which day actually, I think it was Saturday morning, some whales, anyone's guessing who those whales could be, but some whales got together and they basically pumped the price to liquidate the shorter. So if the shorter, if he put down USD Tether as collateral, and then he borrowed ELA, which would mean that if ELA's price went up, ELA is worth more than the collateral he put down, meaning that he would then get liquidated. So I think his threshold was around 260, 270, as far as he couldn't allow the price to go up there. Otherwise, he risks losing his 2.67 million collateral. Now, on the early hours of Saturday morning, our whales pumped the price to, I think, just under $4. And, they held it there for a good amount of time, which created a big effect. That suddenly Filder's borrowing, the ELA borrowed, was just gone. They got liquidated, and now the price has gone down. But what it really did was it sent a message to say to anyone, if you're thinking about shorting ELA and manipulating the price, don't do it, because there's people in the ecosystem that are able to counter you, and they can probably, I mean, we've watched a little bit of the wallet address, the ELA address that had done all of this, and it's pretty much stopped being active now. It's stopped. So I'm sure whoever woke up to finding out that they'd lost 2.7 million is going to be very upset. But that was a massive risk to take in the first place, especially with the 90% utilization rate. And, there wasn't much leeway anyway with 10%. And Yeah, they got the price down to about 190, so they really pushed it and suppressed it. But then the price just flung back up when our side came to the rescue. And I think that what it really raises more than anything, and I understand we don't like to talk about price, and it's, you know, a topic with the foundation don't like to talk about because, well, you know, it's about the technology. But what we saw here is the first potential attempt to capture a lot of market share of ELA. And when you own ELA, what you really own is a part of the network. There's only going to be 28 million ELA available. The percentage in which you own of ELA is the percentage of the network that you have control over. So if someone's trying to get hold of 1 million ELA, what does that say about centralization and the potential for them to then do damage? And more specifically, the fact that they could, in the CRC elections, use that million ELA to vote in 4 or 5 representatives to then basically do something malicious. And actually, there's a real argument that we can't afford to have other projects just going up whilst we're not going up, because if that's the case, then everyone else is getting more powerful and they can just look at us and say, well, this is a steal. Clearly there's, you know, a lot of value here that hasn't been seen, and we can swoop in and take advantage of it. So I actually think price is very important, and we need to ensure that we are growing our market share and market cap as aggressively as possible. And yeah, I mean, it was an eventful week, and it's over, and it's, you know, we won.
I think that's a really good point about why we need to be keeping up with our others, you know, the other competitors, if you like, or even if they're not competitors, but competitors for our attention and our investment, at least.
Yeah.
Because, as you say, you know, if we remain static and everything else has gone up, then actually we're just more vulnerable.
Yeah, and I don't think this was malicious, but there's a story about Tron and who's the founder of Tron? Justin Sun, yeah. And there was another, I can't remember. There was again, I'll have to find the article and I can leave it in the description, but it was for a social platform, and he did exactly this, cornered their market share, bought it, and then basically started saying that they're going to port it over to the Tron network. Now the community had a massive uproar about it. They eventually fought back and did like a proposal in kind of behind the shadows, which allowed them to change code to stop them from doing that. And there was all of this kind of stuff going on.
The Steemit story,
The which, sorry?
What that was a Steemit, wasn't it?
Steemit, that's the one. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Bit of a drama there. What I find really ironic is that if you look at what Elastos has, right, it's great to see that we had this massive dump, and we still have the same number of people that are staking. So the core community is still there. And the core communities, there are around 2,000 people that we know that we can trust. You know, they will be with us, and they're with us for the long run. But at the same time, if you look at the status is where the project is after 3 years, we're worth what, $70 million, give or take. So that's pretty significant. So the irony is that I think that our market value might actually be representative of what we have in terms of technology, community, and businesses that are starting to build on Elastos. But then you look at the potential competitors, and yeah, that they're worth in their billions or hundreds of millions. I think that their market valuation is not correct. I think that ours is fine. The pity is though that we need to go into that same trend of a higher market price, higher valuation, to eventually also protect ourselves. And there's a bit of
it's a tricky one, isn't it, actually, because they're all, you know, there are some that are massively overvalued and they're hyped, and all that can happen to them is that some people within that community are going to get completely dumped on, and you know, there'll be a few that do very well out of it, but the majority will just lose their money. So I think, again, you know, Elastos is truer to itself than some of those other projects. But
yeah, and we've got, I mean, it shows the importance. I mean, it's great we've got some believers of Elastos who also hold, you know, large quantities of ELA, and some may be like, oh well, I wish I held that amount. But on the flip side, you can say, well, actually, you've got people who are there to protect everyone below. And in some scenarios like this, it goes to show how important it is, because yeah, you need to have everyone from the whale.
The right people only.
Yeah.
Well, they've proved themselves to be right, I guess, and have been around long enough to know when to buy. But even now, you know, it's still a steal at the moment. I mean,
so the market cap is $45 million right now, and if we're talking about a Web3, I mean, it's pathetic. I think it's so undervalued. But like, you know, going up to 100 million, I think that then leads on to more Jochem's area, and that to me is, you know, okay, we're sensible considering we don't have all the applications on Elastos, but we got the utility. It's the groundwork is there for all these skyscrapers to start flinging up next. And I also think people haven't realized how much of an opportunity there is to just take already available open source Ethereum code and build new products on the Ethereum sidechain. But yeah, you know, there's a whole world there to be made.
But I mean, in other ways, I guess you can say there are some positives about being this. If you take a very altruistic look at it, a holistic view, then you could also argue that, you know, at $2 or $2.50, everybody can own at least one ELA. And, you know, when it was below $2, you know, there are people in lots of countries, you know, where that is still a lot of money. You know, it could feed a family for a day or a week. And actually at that price, it is possible for, you know, a really diverse community to own a whole ELA or even a fraction of it. But it's not going to stay there. And so we always make this same mistake, I always do, which is looking at it going, oh yeah, I'll get some next week. I'll buy a bit more next week. And then, you know, imagine the FOMO that will exist when it's you know, at $23, or $230, which, you know, I absolutely believe that it still will be.
It's a game theory. The supply and demand of it in total, it's all going to come to a head. It's just so long as the technology keeps advancing, we'll be there. The final point we had was the Cyber Republic Council and what's been going on that side, which I think is a huge step forward as far as communications as far as compared to last year. And we've had already 2 bi-weekly meetings. We've agreed to have bi-weekly meetings on the idea that each council member at least turns up to one of them per month. So every month there is a representation. So far, though, in the last 2, we've pretty much had a full meetup with everyone. And yeah, again, do you guys want to expand a little bit on what's been going on there?
I'm just before I do, I'm just going to have to apologise because I've got a meeting in 4 minutes with one of our partners that I need to be on. So I will sign off now.
Okay.
But just to say that I'm in one of the subgroups that has also emerged out of that council. So, you know, although I mean it's got a very different attitude to last year's council, and I think we're just involving ourselves more together. And those are global council subgroups and groups. You know, they're not, you know, just East versus West. It's all mixed up, and actually we all seem to be getting along really well at the moment. So from my perspective, it's great. But guys, I'm going to go and talk to VJack, who some of you may have seen on one of our webinars about blockchain save democracy. And I'll go and chat to him about the project he's working on at the moment and how we can potentially work together to in this South London partnership. Awesome. Guys, I've got to go. Thank you so much, and speak to you soon.
Thanks, Chris. See you later.
Bye. Bye. Yeah, so I second what Chris just mentioned. Like the whole vibe within the council itself is so much more positive, and same kind of drive to really bring the utility to Elastos. And last year we were in a different situation where really the need for having another look at our own token economy or coin economy, that was needed. That was the first big thing that we had to tackle. Well, we tackled that. We talked about it in the last call as well. But the vibe is much more proactive, much more focusing on creating work groups to solve specific problems that we need to work on. Bringing in people who make suggestions to elaborate on what they want to do, how they want to do it, so that like you said, the whole communication is much more pleasant. I think less ego and more production, and that's really good.
Yeah, I mean, the difference in just communication is staggering. Everyone's jumping on these calls and they're usually lasting about 2 hours. There's no set agenda as far as, sorry, set time. And this is just the natural kind of progression that we've given. Usually we find we extend the time and everyone's happy to stay on. So far, we've had Elation Studios chair, which Troy and Fakul have been helping with, and they've done a fantastic job in both making sure we get through the agenda items, but also writing a report on what's been summarized. And it's just, I mean, so useful and helpful. And yeah, again, some great topics. We've had everything from talking about the upcoming Web3 event. We've had talks about Cassie as a secretariat and what's involved there. We've looked at the exchange listings and, what can we do there, and the financial aspect of how we can sell ELA or to raise the funds in a way which isn't going to dampen the price more or suppress. So we're looking into DeFi solutions and what we can do. And then just, yeah, again, there's been some more conversations that's been had and some things which we won't discuss, but I think it's super exciting. It's all headed in the right direction, and I can already see that this year is going to be a really productive year. Personally, one of the things that I think is the most defining thing we can do this year is turning the CRC into a legal entity. Wyoming have just enabled legislation to allow DAOs to be legally registered and recognized. And I think if we can achieve that as the second year council, it means we can sign papers and we can get our exchanges going, and we can do things that just aren't possible right now, but also working within the legislation, the legal framework of what the world's moving towards. And I think it's super important. So we could really be at the forefront of that. And we forget just how innovative our DAO actually is, and I do tend to believe that we're at the forefront of having one of the best DAOs. And the systems clearly worked. The first year showed that. Disagreements are inevitable, it's part of it, and actually if there weren't disagreements at the time, I'd be a bit worried about the DAO itself, because if everyone's agreeing, then we must be missing something. And but yeah, just overall it's looking really promising there, and moving forward I think it's going to be a good year.
Yeah, absolutely. That do we have anyone who is based in Wyoming, by the way? You don't need to mention any names, but
I don't believe so, no. But they are, especially in the States, they are leading on the crypto and blockchain side. And I think second to that would be Miami at the moment, in Florida. But no, I don't really.
I'd rather be in Florida, to be honest. I'll do it.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it's interesting. Legislation needs to catch up. Technology is moving so fast. It's, at break speed, that it's hard to stay up with all of this, and I'm sure they've got their work cut out. But the fact that Wyoming are leading on the DAO side, that is the future of governance. In the same way you have a board of directors today, tomorrow it will be decentralized protocols that are managed by DAOs, and decisions are made that benefit everyone, and people are elected into those positions. So it's a completely different framework, and it's amazing, and it's there to benefit the people, not the few. It's a different kind of incentive structure.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that Wyoming is moving that way it's a really good sign, and it makes sense as well, right? I mean, it's just a new structure, new way of organizing your entities. Yet we have, as Cordial, we've got the foundation, we've got Orchard Limited, and it may only make sense to have the DAO at one point as well. So yeah, it's just another part of the evolution of governance, so to speak.
Big time. Yeah, so I mean, I guess that kind of ticks everything off, and we won't go on. I think we've done quite well on time without going on too heavy, Jochem. And I think just a takeaway point from my side is that we've been a bit quiet, not because we're anywhere other than just having our heads down and working on all these different pieces. It's quite a lot to be dealing with, but it's things moving along and positive. Community-wise, obviously, I'm still quite engaged there, and I can understand everyone's been really upset recently with the price action. But guys, either take away the risk or what's making you upset, so you don't have to lose sleepless nights over it, or have that long-term investor strategy. But just know that, ask yourself and think what your gut's trying to tell you, and why did you get involved in this, and why do you believe it's important? Are things being delivered? Are we meeting milestones? And is the technology getting stronger? Because if it is, then you shouldn't worry. You should just look at the big picture and say there's going to be volatility along the way. No story to success is a straight line, but I believe we're on that track, and this is something which others haven't recognized yet. So yeah, hang in there, guys, because the momentum changes, and we know what it's like in crypto. It happens so fast, and suddenly, before you know it, everyone's screaming with excitement.
And again, obviously, it is not financial advice by no means. But
Yeah.
but it is good to know in anything that you do in life that whenever you feel that it takes too much of your energy and it only brings you worries, just bring down those worries a little bit, and there are different ways of dealing with it.
Yeah.
And for us, it's a long game. This kind of stuff, it's a long game.
Yeah.
And if you enjoy the long game, then enjoy the process. Trust the process. And if it makes you, if it freaks you out, then don't do it. That's it. But then you shouldn't be in crypto either, by the way.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're in a market. We are all in a market which is probably as volatile, if not more so, than oil. And oil is extremely volatile. So, recognize that this is the case, and you're going to get times where you'll get swung out into the red and sometimes swung into the green. But if you can just either hold or to say, well, this isn't for me, I think you need to definitely make that decision. I've got a great image which I've been using recently, and it's an old guy in bed on his deathbed, and he's got a bubble where he's thinking, I wish I spent more time arguing online. And it's it's him taking the piss, obviously, that don't spend your time arguing online, guys. Go be with your families, go be with your loved ones, do the things that are really important, because I promise the technology will tell its own journey and it will make its own story, but you don't want to be wishing or regretting all those hours you spent just arguing over things which were eventually irrelevant, because adoption did take place and it took off. So in these moments of real downside, have a plan, stick to that plan, and then otherwise try not to get bogged down. There's people I speak to who check their charts over 10 times a day or more, and it's like I've been doing that too before. But when everything's red, you can look at that chart and it can completely change your mood, and you don't need that. You got to think of your mental health as much so as your physical health. And yeah, the charts and the volatility of crypto can really hurt people. So try to support the teams which are building on the technology which you believe in, and be positive, because what we're building here is Web3, and it's going to have a profound impact and across the world. It takes a long time, and the picture's a big one.
And we're examples of this, right? I mean, we get our energy from supporting the teams, engaging with the community, doing this kind of stuff. This is what we like, and everyone feels the same about price movements, but do things where you get your energy from, and that should also be spending time with your family, enjoying the good weather whenever there is good weather, have a good meal, whatever, and do the things that give you enjoyment as well. Because being negative doesn't help you at all.
No, and I'm a huge believer in that. We spend so much time focusing on what we want in the future, we become fixated on it. Like, ELA is going to go to 1 million. My life is going to change. Blah, 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 blah. It's going to be incredible. But then that fixation of trying to get somewhere, it could be I want to be a business leader, whatever it is, your goal and your career goal. You fail to see what you have in front of you today. So when the time you do get to where you want to go, which I believe everyone does, so long as they really believe they work hard and they move towards it, you will get there. But a lot of the time when they do, that something that they had before is missing, and then they look back and say, oh, I wish I had that. And even though I've got what I have today, so I think it's all about the journey. It's not the destination. So the journey, where are you in your journey today? What do you have? What are you grateful for having around you? And then what would you like to see get better in the future? And take it day by day and moving in that direction. But try not to become overly fixated in something which, at the end of the day won't matter much, and you might miss something else.
Amen to that one.
Oh yeah. But yeah, it's great to be doing this, and we'll get back on these weekly updates. We're going to keep doing it, and we'll try and get some guests on as well. I know we spoke about this before, so guys, if there's anyone you'd like to see jump on and we can just have a casual chat with, just drop them in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and yeah, have a great week. It's England Denmark tonight.
Okay, so this is when the real Brexit will happen, Sash.
I'm excited. Oh, that's a big topic to talk about then, because Ryan, Starfish Labs, has created a dApp. He's deployed it on the Ethereum sidechain, and it's called bet.elastos. Let me just quickly get the exact.
I actually put 1 ELA in favor of England.
Did you? Oh, nice one, Jochem. Yeah, we're outweighing Denmark quite a lot. So if anyone wants to try and earn some ELA and puts their money on Denmark, the odds are looking good right now. And Denmark,
I think I'm going to do it. Just one. I mean, okay.
We've got to lose. But no, so Ryan has brought a betting application. Again, it's just what he just deploys it for the match. In this case, he's deployed an England-Denmark app. You can put in how much ELA you want to bet, and it's all done on smart contracts, peer-to-peer at the end. And
but how does it work on the back end then? Because who checks is there an Oracle connected, or is it just Ryan?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, so I had the same question actually, and no, so Ryan's going to trigger. Ryan is the Oracle, so we have to trust Ryan here. So he did one before for, I think it was Germany, but anyway, the one he did before, you could also keep betting whilst the match was going on. So then you could be like, well, it's clear who's going to win this, and then throw down a load at the end. That's now been blocked. So once the match starts, you can't bet anymore. And then Ryan still has to trigger the smart contract at the end. But ultimately, we need an Oracle to do that for us. So,
I mean, I think that the guys at Chainlink will be scratching their heads right now, like, yeah. But this is what we do.
We just need to hire thousands of Ryans and we'll be okay. But it's cool. Check it out. It's bet.elastos.app. And you need to be connected on your MetaMask to the Ethereum sidechain on Elastos. And it will then allow you to see the page and you can then place your bet. But really cool, really exciting. And
it's really nice to play with.
Yeah. Okay, Jochem. Well, have a great rest of the day.
Likewise. Okay. And enjoy the match tonight.
Oh, it's going to be good. I'm excited.
Cheers, man.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.